Hello, everybody. My name is Len Bear. I'm your host of Targeted Justice v. Garland, a podcast about an extraordinary lawsuit. Today, we have a power panel. We have one of the founders and a board member of Targeted Justice, Richard Lighthouse. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Lan. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's my pleasure. It's a really important topic that we will be discussing today. And of course, an advisory board member and an attorney for the plaintiffs in Targeted Justice v. Garland, Anna Toledo. Please say hello, Anna.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, Lynn, for having prepared such a great show for everybody today.
You viewers dictated the topic of the show. This week, Targeted Justice Substack newsletter had an article named Four Myths About Targeting. And it produced such a emotional, very charged response. A lot of people agreed with it. A lot of people disagreed with it. So we could not just skip over this topic. We decided to bring it to the podcast, and I invited the leadership of Targeted Justice so we can talk about it, explain our points to you, and clear some controversies. Before we broach the topic of today's podcast, I would like to make an important announcement. On Friday, January 26th, there will be an educational symposium held. The topic of the symposium is reality of the targeting program. I think this is a historic event. It's a landmark. We've never had an event of this magnitude. And please look at the roster of speakers. They're physicists, doctors, lawyers, people with intelligence background, and we will be all talking about different aspects of targeting. We want to educate the general public. So if you notice, it is held by a organization called Vax Choice. Todd Callender, the attorney Todd Callender, is one of the leaders of this organization. So this is not an event limited to targeted individual audience only. This is a broad event that will go out to the general public. So please tune in and please tell all your neighbors, friends, family members, strangers about this event. It's going to be terrific. With that, let's go to the topic of today's podcast. Four myths about targeting. This article was published on January 15, just this week. Richard or Anna, please tell me about the genesis of this newsletter. How did it come about? Because I didn't write this letter. I strongly agree with all the points in this newsletter, but please tell me how it came about.
On Sunday, I was talking to Goji about, the three things that you cannot disagree with a TI without them getting upset. And it was the first, at least, the first three of them is here, which is, I am the most targeted person in the world. And in my situation, I get people that write to me and tell me and write to me and say, you need my evidence in order to win the case. And my answer is, you clearly haven't read the pleadings. And then number two, they're trying to kill me. And number three, don't believe your V2K. And I am one very famous to be telling everybody that the people behind the V2K are criminals, and you just don't believe the criminals. So, but Goji's like, those are things it's very hard to tell a person to not do. And then the fourth one about staying in your couch. Well, I get that a lot, especially with the forms. People that have signed up, please check my name on the TSDB, and then a week later they're like, no, take me off the list because my targeting went up. And it's like, do you want to end this or not? And so that's how it came about. And so I talked to Richard about it, and then I think this would be a really great topic for the newsletter, because people really believe, they hold on to these beliefs, and that's what the criminals want them to do. And clearly it's detrimental to their moving on and to their flourishing and to their fighting back. So that's how it came about.
Thank you, Anna. Let's go into the topics of the newsletter. So without further ado, myth number one, I am the most targeted person in the world. So that's the myth. But what are the facts and what are the truths about it? You're not the most targeted person in the world. You are an experiment and your data is important, not you. Number second, you are not a member of the National Security Council. You do not have access to the nuclear launch codes. A little humor there. Number three, you are not a member of Congress. Number four, you do not have the personal cell phone numbers to military generals, wealthy billionaires, or prime minister of foreign governments.
You are correct. We're simply trying to counter the understanding. A lot of people believe that the amount of attention they're getting through the targeting program proves that they have some terribly important information. And this is simply an effort to scale what you believe to be important to what somebody in the CIA probably perceives as important. I'll give you one example. We had a gentleman last year who was apparently very targeted, getting a lot of gang stalking, and he believed the reason for it is because he had exposed a drug dealing gang in his little town in Kansas. And I had to look where it was up on the map. I'd never heard of this little town. And he was absolutely convinced that his exposure of these drug dealers in the little town is the reason that he was targeted, and they were following him everywhere. And this proved that this gang was actually running the global gang stalking program. And the perceptions become so distorted until you look at what things are truly important on a national scale. Drug dealing, I'm not discounting the fact that drug dealing is a problem, but having the nuclear launch codes would make you far more high profile than simply knowing the whereabouts of local drug dealers. So we're trying to put it into perspective and scale, and that's the point we're trying to make here.
That's an excellent point. Thank you, Richard.
Well, I want to first make this disclaimer. I plead guilty to those three first myths, okay? Now I am on a correctional course, but when I first got to Houston, I thought I was the most targeted person in the world. And when I started reading emails and when I started talking to people and reading letters, that's when I realized I became very humble, and I realized that there's people that have it way worse than me, way worse, despite the atrocious things that I have gone through. So it's just take the light off yourself and look around. No, you're not the most targeted person in the world. I can promise you that. Probably, among all the people that I know that are the most targeted is you, Len. I mean, I really, although I have read so much and seen so much, I think you probably are one of the most, and you never hear you. I have never heard you remotely say that you are the most targeted person. You don't even complain about it. So definitely that is one thing that people should get a dosage of humility and realize that they're not the center of the world.
Thank you, Anna. I actually agree with both of your sentiments, Richard and Anna. The reason I'm not complaining, and the reason I never would say something like that, because long time, I realized that this centrality of your experience, it's not a bug, it's a feature of the program. It's like before Galileo, you are the center of the world. The things circle around you and not the other way around. And so that's why we need a dose of reality. And those are great comments. Let's move forward. We're still talking about myth number one. At number 5A, we have TI cases that have been severely burned with microwave weapons for more than 30 years. B, we have a TI case with more than 140 implant locations. C, we have a TI case with V2K from hundreds of different voices. D, we have cases from women that have been directed energy weapon raped and trafficked for 15 plus years. 6, You're not the first or the worst. You are a valuable and expensive experiment. The government criminals care about their experiment, not you personally. And I want to read the number 7. Instead of making comparisons about who suffers the most, we urge you to focus on helping us end the program. I like that number 7 a lot.
It definitely is when you remove the focus from yourself and instead place it on others. That is the key to happiness. And that's why, I have said it many times that I feel so privileged and honored to have been placed here. I had to be targeted to be here. So I had to look at it as it's a good thing that happened to me, as atrocious as it is, because it put me where I am doing meaningful things, and that's what everybody should be trying to focus on, helping, for example, helping the children, helping the elderly that are targeted. In the forms that have been filled out, I have 100-year-old woman who is targeted and microwaved. We have babies that are burned. So I urge you all to roll up your sleeves and take on the cause with us and badger the people in Congress to end this. Not make it about yourself, make it about the others that suffer.
I agree with you. To me, this sentiment from reading these facts and truth about myth number 1, this is how I would summarize it. This is not a competition. The competition should be who is most active, who is most helping others, who is most articulate. That's what it should be about, not about who is suffering the most. That's why, as far as the competition, as you know, we put you on the cover of Time magazine as a targeted person of the year. And you're not there because you are suffering the most. You are there because you're doing the most. Myth number 2, they're trying to kill you. That's a very controversial myth. Number 1, the goal of the program is to get you to surrender or neutralize yourself. If you kill yourself, then you have also neutralized yourself. The CIA considers that to be a success story. Do not do it. Number 2, if they wanted you dead, you would be dead. The US military operates at least 9 different weapon systems in orbit. Any one of these weapon systems can be used to kill you instantly without leaving a trace. There are frequencies that can make your heart stop by disrupting the signal from your brain. No one will know it was anything other than an ordinary heart attack.
We've elaborated previously on some of these weapon systems that are in orbit, including the Vercator microwave weapon, projectile weapons, X-ray weapons, and these things are deliberately deadly. And we can categorize some of them as weapons of mass destruction. And it's against international treaties for those weapons to be in orbit, and yet the U.S. Space Force has them and operates them. We brought those treaty issues up before in other programs and in technical papers. So for those that are interested, I encourage you to look at them. But the emphasis here should be, if they truly wanted you dead, you would be dead. There are so many methods and means. We'll touch on the assassination teams that have been used around the globe. Vice President Dick Cheney, who was vice president under George Bush Jr., had his own personal death squad that went around. Anybody that threatened or made fun of the president, they would literally just fly a team down in a helicopter and take the person out. It's very disturbing. It's a violation of foreign sovereignty. It's a violation of international treaties. We could go on, and yet they do it anyway. It just shows how brazen some of these programs have become. So the point here is to emphasize to TIs, you're certainly not in that category that you would be targeted by an assassination team, but understand very well that if they want you dead, you will be dead. And I think you can rest and sleep easier at night knowing that the fact that you're in the TI program does not necessarily mean they're going to murder you.
I agree with that very much. That's a great explanation. Number three, this is exactly what you were talking about, Richard. In addition, the US government has top secret assassination team. If they really wanted you dead, then you would be dead. VP Dick Cheney is also rumored to have operated a global death squad. And in support of that, we provided an article from The Atlantic called The Terrifying Background of the Man Who Ran a CIA Assassination Unit. The article was published in 2012, and the link will be in the description of the video. Number four, some of the torture appears to be life-threatening, but the purpose remains to get you to neutralize yourself. If you stopped fighting back, then you have been neutralized. Does that sound like you? It sounds like me. I can tell you that. The whole category of so-called non-lethal weapons is a misnomer, because any weapon, depending on the parameters set, can go from non-lethal to lethal in no time. It's just a matter of setting the parameters right. So yes, there's some dissonance about, can non-lethal weapons be lethal? Yes. However, this is not how they're used against you. They're used against you in the form of a torture program and of a torture experiment. And ending that experiment means that you will erase all your data. As me, who's running experiments every day, I know that I want the experiment to continue so I can collect more useful data.
Well, this one for me was a life changer, because I was really convinced that they were going to kill me. And it was such an eye opener in the good sense, because just this week I got a horrible attack to my heart Sunday night. And in the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to kill me. And then I came back to here and I said, no, they can't kill me, because sometimes, like Mr. Lighthouse has told me, it's sort of an insurance, being a TI, that they can't actually come out and murder you. We're not saying it doesn't happen. Sometimes they just go over the edge, and maybe they go overboard with their frequency or whatever. And then we're going to talk in the comments, we're going to talk about the slow cleal and all of that. We'll discuss that. It's just that you don't have to worry that the thugs on the streets brandishing their weapons are going to murder you, because they are forbidden from doing it. Lighthouse might correct me, but they might be taken out if they dare shoot you or kill you. Am I wrong on this, Richard?
No, basically you're correct. We need to make a distinction between the perception of a threat and how the program is actually run. And it's very important that people understand that distinction. There's also important differences between people that are what we call category 3 and category 4. Category 4 TIs on the TSDB receive substantially less targeting, whether it's DO or voice to skull. All of that is ramped down, and that accounts for about 75% of the TI population. The people that are in category 3 are the people that are receiving some of the worst targeting. If you're getting 24-hour-a-day voice to skull, that's very noticeable, you're in category 3. If you're getting severe directed energy weapon attacks that put you on the floor, you're in category 3. So people need to understand the parameters of the program, and the fact that the point of the program is not to kill you. The point is to see what does it take to get you to neutralize yourself and shut down.
But what I meant is that, because I know I experienced this, like one day I was at the beach and there was this like lowlife brandishing a bat at me, like, I'm gonna beat you up. And I was like, and then this was back in Puerto Rico, obviously. But then they left. And the same happened in a gas station. This woman was coming onto me. She was going to beat me up. And then she ran away. So what I'm asking you really is, isn't it true that the Gangstalkers are forbidden from physically attacking you, from murdering you, basically?
Well, I'm essentially, you're correct, but for somebody that may not be stable, I'm not sure that their behavior is entirely predictable. if you read, and we did provide a link to the training manual that was apparently written by British intelligence agencies many years ago and was part of Dr. Kildey's book called Bright Light on Dark Shadows or Black Shadows. And it provides a great deal of information about deniability. The types of covert activities that you do always give you room for deniability. But if you're in a place that's got security cameras around and you're carrying a baseball bat and threatening everybody, that's not really covert. You're leaving a big trail of evidence. And so the program supposedly trains these people that are directly and knowingly involved not to do things that leave no room for deniability. So I think that addresses your concern.
That's a very astute comment. And I like this exchange. And one word stood out to me in this exchange is the word fear. The purpose of this program to instill fear in you, targeted individuals. And fear breeds stress, and then the stress changes you in so many ways, psychologically, immunologically. Your entire body runs on the constant stress, and the source of that stress, besides the frequencies and the sophisticated directed energy weapon system, is fear that is you receive a performance that instills fear in you. So when you see that display, the bats, I've seen people pulling guns in the car next to me driving as if they were going to shoot me. And I was just laughing because I know the rules. I know the rules that Richard just explained. And it's a display that is supposed to instill fear in you. And I hope that it's useful to every targeted individual. Moving on, still on myth number 2. Yes, a small piece of TIs appears to have been murdered. We are aware of that. We also have TIs that have been in the program for more than 35 years. Our average member has been a targeted individual for more than 7 years. Do you really believe they missed the target for 7 years? You are an expensive experiment. If you are dead, then there's no data. Perfectly said. It is an experiment. You generate data. It's expensive to run this remote experiment. So you are an expensive experiment. I wish every target individual would wake up saying these words and go to bed saying these words. I am an expensive experiment.
I can tell you one thing, and it is that I urge every targeted individual to do their own, like a will, check the laws in your state, and designate somebody with a stomach to go into your autopsy and say, for every single, I assign the claim of the product liability to the manufacturer of all the implants inside my body. And I specifically authorize an order and petition that this person be present in my autopsy and collect all the artifacts that will be removed from my body. And I think when you look at yourself as the treasure chest of a lot of artifacts that prove this program that is based on plausible deniability, you will realize it's true they can't murder me, because then I'm going to provide for so that somebody comes into my autopsy. I demand an autopsy, and all these artifacts are removed. Especially if you did if you have X-rays or CT scans, whatever, showing that you have them. Well, that's very empowering, because these criminals don't want the evidence to be out there.
Myth number 3. The V2K sometimes gives me helpful or truthful information. Ha, ha, ha. Sorry for that moment of uncontrolled levity. Number 1, if you do receive truthful information from the V2K, then it is setting you up for another lie. Don't fall for it. It's like good cop, bad cop. Number 2, some of the best advice from Dr. John Hall and Dr. Len Baer: ignore the V2K or learn to ignore it. Don't respond. Amen. Number 3, whether AI or real person is behind your V2K, they're criminals that are paid to torture you. Why would you trust a criminal? Why would you trust a criminal?
Doesn't that sound like me? That number 3 sound like me? Because of course I had to. I don't have V2K, but every time I go into any call where V2K is discussed, I say they are criminals. You are not. And this is where Goji and I had not an argument, but a discussion about, because she says some people you can't tell them, you can't say anything about bad about their V2K because they actually build relationships with these criminals. No, she didn't say criminals. I said criminals. She said with these people. I'm not going to put words into Goji's mouth. She's not here to defend herself. But for me, maybe it's easier because I don't have it. And it's easier to say to you, would you trust a drug dealer with your brain to a drug dealer? Or would you trust your body to a murderer? Well, I say the same thing. Would you trust your mind to a criminal that is a traitor to this nation and that gets paid with American taxpayer money to torture you? I don't get it. So, but you are more versed in this because you actually have it. So my opinion is just from the perspective of just ignore it. Just ignore it.
Yes, you are correct. Out of the 3 of us, I'm the only one who has V2K alongside with thousands and hundred thousands of probably millions of target individuals with V2K. Number 2 summarizes it perfectly. Ignore or learn to ignore. And how you can learn to ignore is by placing some kind of speech in your environment that your brain would concentrate on. So sort of your consciousness, imagine that a TV set is your consciousness. And even though there are 300 programs can be played on this TV, you can only play one, or maybe like a picture in picture, maybe, the main one and 2, so you're sort of multitasking. But even though there's a channel with V2K, if you play a different channel, then V2K does not have a way to get into the TV screen of consciousness. And that's what I do. I constantly, right now we're talking, there's no V2K. The minute we stop talking, there's V2K. So what I'm doing is wearing headphones with that's playing speech. I play audiobooks. I chose a long audiobook. It doesn't matter what it's about, but you train your brain to get accustomed to it. So the speech is playing, but you are not paying attention to the content. That frees you to do other cognitive tasks. So when I'm working, when I'm writing something, there's always speech playing in my headphones. I like my headphones because it's always the same information and my brain knows just not to pay attention. It's there, but my cognitive broadband, I can devote it to something else. I have a Substack about it, which I will include in the description of the video. A lot of people found it very helpful. Myth number 4, if I sit on my couch and don't fight back, then maybe they will leave me alone. And the fact is that no TI has ever been released from the program because they surrendered. In general, your targeting will continue to increase if you don't fight back using legal methods such as flyers, writing your congressman. We do have numerous examples of reduced gang stalking when people use effective methods to fight back. And we will provide you with the link of targetjustice.com, which is called How to Fight Back. Very useful information. So I do have one comment about the intensity of gang stalking. If you live in the same area for a long enough time, the number of gang stalkers available in that territory who is willing to travel there and be there in a car or in person, they will eventually exhaust that list. And they don't want the same people to be in front of you, because that makes it very obvious. And it also allows you to trace who these people are. So living in the same area will actually reduce gang stalking over time, to a point, not entirely. And fighting back, that's something that I'm not going to stop. I cannot stand injustice, the highest form of injustice. So fighting back, that's not going to stop.
You
Please.
know, for me, when I get something very painful done to me, or just, you know, something in the computer or something, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for telling me that I'm doing it right. If they attack me more, it only makes me want to do it more. You know what I mean? So for me, it is not an option sitting on the couch, because when I do things and they attack me, then I attack back more. And it makes me feel so much better because I know they can't kill me. So it makes me feel so much better because they are so stupid that they let me know what bothers them. And when you do something that bothers them, that's you're doing something right. And I don't see why people should back down, you know, should back off. But that's just me because I have that's my nature.
Interestingly enough, I have my own strategy about gangstalkers. What you're talking about, the attitude that you sort of, fighting back and engaging with them, sometimes it gets burdensome. You waste a lot of time doing that. If I'm at the store or at the gym and I see obviously somebody is trying to get my attention, I just go on the offensive. I come up and I introduce myself and ask them how they doing, and just strike up a friendly conversation instead of being exposed to the gangstalking, because then they just simply they look like a deer in the headlights. They just don't know what to do. And so you kind of disarm them by being proactive. But that's my strategy. Not everybody wants to come up to their gang stalker and say, how's your day going? And how can I make it better?
I want to clarify. When I said fight back, I didn't mean gang stalkers. The gang stalkers, I pretend I don't see them. I don't talk to them. I disregard them. What I'm saying fighting back is, for example, when they physically attack my heart or my head, like, you know, they attack my head or in the computer. That's what I'm saying I fight back. I fight back doing what I have to do, work and organizing and writing and being out there and exposing. That's what I'm saying. Fighting back. I'm not saying it. You know, gang stalkers for me are such low lives that they don't deserve my attention. I'm talking the physical. You know, when I get pierced in the head, like it what feels like a screwdriver, then I do more of what triggered them to do it, or what I think it is that triggered them to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand. I'm trying not to use the words like stupid and low life toward gang stalkers, because I sort of understand what they're motivated by. They've been told that we are dangerous people, that we perhaps terrorists, perhaps we've done something else despicable. It doesn't matter. But I'm trying to imagine how it is from the other side. If you are fed that kind of information and you've been asked by your government to do your patriotic duty, you're simply misguided and perhaps not enough educated, because anybody who knows the history of the 20th century would know about a little country called GDR and the Stasi program and how it ended, and that basically over a third of the country had a Stasi file on all of them. But these people basically obviously do not know history, and then I feel sorry for them. They're simply misguided. And I want to help them if they open up for a conversation.
It is no coincidence that for the past 20 years, the civics classes in most curriculums have been eliminated because the government doesn't want people to know that it is illegal for them to go around like vigilantes, carrying out, taking justice into their own hands of people that have never been arrested, indicted, accused, tried, or convicted of any crime. And that's why the government doesn't want people to know that what they do is illegal. So I don't feel sorry for them because the Constitution is out there. And I mean, I can't excuse people that don't want to learn and know why this country, used to be the best country in the world in terms of freedoms. That's why excuse my language, but I have, the other alternative is, it's not good words, but that's my thing. I can have no respect for anybody that doesn't know the civics in this country, bare essential civics. You don't go after people that have not been arrested, indicted, convicted, tried of any crime, especially as terrorist offense. If you're a pedophile, here's one thing. What, how they say that a lot of targeted individuals are defamed by the government. They're told, fusion centers go around telling people that they're pedophiles. Well, if that was true, they would be on the sex offender list, and they're not. And that's the first thing that people with two neurons in their brain should know, because there is such a thing as a Megan's Law and as a sex offender list. And if a person is a real pedophile, they would be on that list. And it's not for you to go around chasing the person and making their life miserable, because people have a right, even after they're convicted, to, they paid their debt to society. If they're out in the free community, it's not for you to go around chasing them and torturing them. Who are you to do that? And that's just, I have no pity, compassion, or deference in any way to the Gangstalkers.
One taken. More about the same myth. Number two, targeted justice did not make the rules. We just figured them out. Number three, here's the Gangstalking training manual for reference. The use of British spelling suggests that it may have been originally written by British intelligence agents. You can see a link in the description. You can see the page where the training manual for Gangstalking is displayed. Richard, would you like to tell us a little bit about the history of this document, how we came across it?
Good point, Len. So this training manual actually came from Dr. Rowney Kill's book called Bright Light on Black Shadows, which was published more than 10 years ago. I don't recall exactly when, but one of the appendixes in her book is basically this training manual. And we're not sure how she got a hold of it. She didn't try to explain that, but we've posted just that training manual on our website for everybody to read. It's not that long. I don't remember exactly how many pages it was, but the general content of it is, you're going to do these things to harass the person, but always leave room for deniability. And people will get that sense by reading through this training manual. It is, by the way, one of the most popular tabs on our website. So we get many thousands, tens of thousands of visits to this every year. So it helps people to understand what's been laid out and why these people are doing this, because they're following what the manual says. I think it's important to make a distinction between someone who is a paid and willful participant as a gang stalker and people that are mind controlled. And that's probably a completely separate discussion. But I think people that are very astute over a number of years will learn to recognize people that are highly suggestible and easily mind controlled. And that's about a third of our population. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're a paid gang stalker. It simply means they're susceptible to subliminal messaging. And so there is roughly about one third of our population that are highly susceptible to these messages. They're not paid gang stalkers. They have no idea what's going on. And if you confront them, you're going to feel foolish, because the look on their face will make it very clear they have no idea what you're talking about. So try to be more aware of that. That's a helpful suggestion of somebody who's a paid and willful gangstalker and somebody who is simply being manipulated mentally through subliminal messaging. So there is a clear difference.
That's a very important point. When I was telling you about my strategy with gangstalking, I always keep that possibility in mind. So I don't talk to them about the gangstalking program. I'm just introducing myself and displaying sort of friendliness toward them. And thank you for that explanation about the training manual. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what transpired in the comment section of that Substack newsletter. Emotion run high. There's some positive comments. There's some negative comments. We have screenshots of some of them, and let's just have a free-form conversation about it. Crazy Target says, "Thanks for the reminder. Gotta stay grounded." Very, very positive comment. On the other hand, Ortain writes, "I have to disagree with myth number 2, which you already did to some degree yourself. The advantage to slow kill is that it makes it harder to trace back the death to one definitive source." And there is an answer by Target Justice. "The TIs that urgently want help believe they will be killed today, not a few years later." So we're talking about distinction between a fast kill and slow kill. And let me read his response so we can get into a discussion. "I don't want to downplay the seriousness of these crimes to console anyone, nor do I want anyone to be under the impression that these attacks aren't a serious threat to their well-being, short-term or long-term. There's plenty enough of that from the perpetrators themselves."
Yeah, well, this comment is actually much longer, and it's very well documented. And I wanted to bring it to the attention because the urgency, like Targeted Justice says, we get emails of people, "You have to come save me now. They're going to murder me." And no, they're not going to murder. That's what we're trying for people to understand, that the government criminals behind this program want to get you into that state of mind of thinking that they're going to murder you so that you suffer. And that is not going to happen immediately. What we're referring to is the immediacy of that murder that they're going to supposedly carry out. They're not going to do that because they're not going to do anything that might unleash a criminal investigation. Yes, all of our bodies are every day damaged, harmed, deteriorated because of what these criminals do. We don't want to downplay that. What we are referring to is the people that I actually receive phone calls of people, "You have to come to save me. They're going to kill me." And, I don't know what they expect me to do, but that's not, Targeted Justice doesn't have the resources or the capabilities to do anything like that, even if they were murdering you, even if it was true. But now we know it, and I'm very, very grateful that I learned that that wasn't the case, so that when I get the really bad piercing in my heart, I know they can't kill me. That's just my comment to Ortain and to everybody out there. What they want you is to be in such a state of anxiety and fear. Don't let them. Don't give it to them. It's all a show to make you feel that way.
Thank you, Anna. I would like to hear from Richard about this difference between fast kill and slow kill, and how we should handle these two concepts, and how we should think about these two concepts, and how we should act toward these two different concepts.
Yeah, thanks, Len. So yeah, it's there's a distinct difference between being someone who's targeted as part of a depopulation agenda, and someone who truly believes that someone is trying to kill them today, right now. And I agree with Anna. We get emails all the time from people that insist that someone or some group of gangstalkers is trying to murder them. And I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness of it. You can imagine how upset and emotionally charged that type of an issue is for someone. And they literally are pushing their adrenaline to the limits. Their heart rate goes to the limits, and it's not a healthy situation. And we do try to reduce the tension and tell them, listen, that's not the goal of the program. And generally, this is people that are very early on in the target. If they've only recently been targeted or recently learned that they're targeted, that's the group that tends to fall into this category where they honestly believe someone's trying to murder them. I think this newsletter will be a good reference so that when we do get emails like that, what we're going to do is attach this link and forward it to folks and say, please read upon this. I think you might agree with some of the content in this newsletter. So I think that will certainly be helpful.
Yeah, excellent advice. I understand the difference between the urgency created by the sense of fear, and I understand the slow body and brain degradation, and those are connected, but two different things. One can be controlled by understanding that this fear is artificially imposed upon you. And in this case, you're literally killing yourself by creating the level of stress that is not healthy. That will eventually make you suffer and kill you. And then there is a slow degradation by exposing you to stress and by microwave attacks. Brain degradation is a strategy, one of the strategies of using non-lethal directed energy weapon system against people. And that's the one that, as counterintuitive as it sounds, you must simply accept it.
On that point, I just wanted to add something. This is not to say that they don't want you to kill yourself, because that's one of the goals of the program, for you to surrender and kill yourself, and then their experiment will have been a success. So I'm not saying they don't want you dead, but they're not going to murder you. They want you to take your life, and we urge you not to do so, if only so that they don't succeed in their experiment, because what they want to know is discover what makes you break. So we are all very aware of the fact that that's one of the goals of the program, and that's why there has been so many suicide among TIs, because the goal is to make you kill yourself. And please don't do it. You're a wonderful and valuable person, and now that the cat is out of the bag, it's a great moment, because I see freedom so much closer than it had ever been. So we can't overlook that.
I understand the point. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Anna. Angie Farrell is the next person who made a comment. I was told I was hooked up to a state database. Does this mean only the computer is causing the targeting, the head pain? Not very clear to me. There's a response from Target Justice. It means you should stop listening to the V2K.
I thought it was a very good reply. They have to stop, because they actually give credibility to what the V2K is whispering to them. But Richard, if you can comment on that.
Yes, that the point of the comment is, that was myth number 3 is ignore the V2K. And so in this particular instance, it appears that this woman is taking the comments from V2K and taking it seriously, and we're encouraging people to not do that. It's that simple. And maybe I've misinterpreted what she was trying to state here, but anyway.
Joshua Tolsma writes, thanks for the reminder that, yes, I'm not the only one that has been put on the global experiment hit list for these silent weapons for quiet weapons platform. So Joshua agrees with our Substack. Victoria writes, great truth telling here. Thank you. You're spot on point. I didn't write this bit, so you're spot on point, Target Justice. Targeting has been going on forever. Nuremberg Code be damned. My entire family was targeted in 1943, and I didn't connect all my dots until 2015. My targeted is even worse now, with everyone having skin in the game because of 5G and all the new psychotronic patent tech. This agenda is decades old. Now we know them by their fruits. Yes, they care only about your data and don't give a damn about you. Burn our heads in the sand will not make the perps go away. We have to love ourselves enough to stand up for our lives. Blessing on you, Target Justice. I don't know about, the connection 1943. It's very hard to comment on somebody's history, but the spirit of the comment is spot on. Burn our heads in the sand will not make it go away. And so this is a call for activism. Doc Powell says, I disagree with that. They don't want us dead. Depopulation is the plan. I think somebody touched upon depopulation. I think it was you, Richard.
Well, I think that Doug didn't read it well, because what we didn't say they don't want us dead. We said they're not going to murder you tomorrow or tonight. That's what we said. Do not fall into the trap of being afraid that they're trying to kill you. They try to kill you, but in a different way. First, for you to kill yourself, and yeah, long term, they have probably, microwaves. I don't know as a medical, on your medical perspective, but I have to think that maybe it shaves off 15, 20 years of somebody's lifespan. I don't know. Probably there's no studies on this, right? But I do agree that our lifespan is going to be shorter than the person that is not microwaved, right?
Most likely.
So that's not in controversy. What's in controversy is that no, tonight they're not looking for you to kill you tonight or tomorrow. Yeah, maybe they do things to your car that you have an accident. They make you, in a very bad car accident. They do things that seem that you're gonna die, but they don't push you there. It's for you to kill yourself. So Doug, it's not. We know that they want us dead, but not in the instant kill murder scenario that many people think.
I understand. I only have one thing to add. When people ask me, do you think that targeting program will end? I answer, yes, it will end, because everybody will become targeted individual. So that goes along with the depopulation program. I think this is the future of humanity. They want everybody to be a target individual, which means will be neurologically controlled. And that concludes our discussion of the Substack newsletter. And once again, we want to alert everybody that there's an educational symposium coming up. As you can see, Richard and Anna will be a part of it, as well as me. Richard, would you like to tell us a few things about what you will be talking about at the symposium?
Yeah, thanks, Len. This is really a unique effort that no organization has tried before. We've assembled a group of highly credible, credentialed, and well-educated people that are respected in their communities. And this program is basically going to state the targeting program is real. This is going to be a video that you can turn if you're a TI and your family is typically opposed and doesn't believe the truth of what you're trying to say. This video will convince them otherwise. So highly credentialed people here, all grouped together, basically laying out the reality of the program, some of the characteristics, some of the things that TIs experience. And we're going to be describing that in detail as part of this program and then answering questions at the end. So highly beneficial to the TI community. It'll be posted all over the internet. It'll be available on social media. We'd like to share it as widely as possible and make it a resource that TIs can use to alert their friends and family and work colleagues about this program.
Excellent. As you can see, there's also one of the speakers that will be speaking at the end of the symposium is our latest addition to the advisory board, Major Jeffrey Prather. And if you follow him on social media, he has a very popular program. He's a targeted individual himself. His perspective as a person who worked in the intelligence community will be highly valuable. Now, Anna, would you like to share a few things, what you have planned for this symposium?
Yeah, aside from delineating the legal effort to have listed individuals of categories 3 and 4 removed from the terrorist screening database, which is the crux of our effort in the case that is whose appeal is pending in the Fifth Circuit, I'm going to have some of the data that I collected regarding the people that identify as targeted individuals that believe they have been erroneously placed on this list. And without obviously disclosing their private information, I will have some statistics regarding what the component on the percentages of what composes what and where they're from. And it's just to establish that this is not a fantastical idea. It's very real, and it's affecting people around the world as well as the United States. And my numbers now say that around 65% have voice just call, which is what the district called fantastical. So when you have around 1,800 people saying that they have voice just call, it's hard to say it's a fantastical and it's not real. And so that's the one thing I will be sharing that I haven't shared so far, because I cut off the form, the entries to in order to be able to tabulate the information and have it and present it to the world. If it was not real, if it was fantastical, there won't be 85% of the people saying that they have organized stalking. 90% of the people saying that they have break-ins, 80% of the people saying that they have microwave attacks. So these are real flesh and bone people that are all over our nation and all over the world saying the same thing, singing the same tune. So I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to this event. This is the end of the show, and we thank you for listening and viewing, and I'm sure it will create a lot of comments on YouTube, on Substack. We want the conversation to continue. We want you to be an active part of it. And I would like to thank our roundtable, Richard Lighthouse and Ann Toledo, for their insight and valuable input into the conversation. Before we close the show, do you have any other announcement to make?
All I want to say is thanks to everybody that has stuck to the very end. And we didn't discuss any legal issues today because there's none right now. And second of all, because we thought this was so important to help, it comes from our heart, and it is to make your life better, a little better. And if in any way this show and this advice has helped you and your life a little better, just leave a comment, because we read them and we really appreciate them. Thank you.
Richard, do you have anything else?
Yes, I just wanted to reemphasize what Anna just mentioned. If you're a targeted individual, please participate. Please get involved. Read the newsletter, comment, make comments, participate in the dialogue online, join a local group. We have both state and international foreign contacts listed at tistories.com and at tievents.org. There are people in your state that you can contact, or in many countries, and get involved. The exposure is what will help to shut the program down. So get involved. It also reduces, we found that when you get involved in a group, it reduces your gang stalking. So get involved. It benefits you. Okay. I just wanted to emphasize that. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. So this is the end of the show. We will see you next Sunday, rain or shine.